Keller. Zabika Elimina. Helen Keller reached up. She touched the warm, cold hair. Her busy fingers moved farther down. They felt something smooth and wet. Snap! A hairy tail snapped into Helen's face. Helen could not see her family's milking cow, but she liked touching it. Helen Keller had been blind and deaf for most of her life. The only way she knew the world was by touch, taste, and smell. Helen was born in 188 into Zabika Alamina. When she was just a baby, she became very sick. The illness took away her sight and hearing. Helen could not hear her brother's laughter or her mother's voice. She could not see her father's smile or the pretty flowers outside her window. For Helen, there was only silence and great darkness. To learn to speak, children need to hear words, but Helen Keller could not hear anything, so she could not speak. Instead, she made motions. When she wanted her mother, but she put her face and hand against her face. When she wanted her father, she made the motion of putting on a pair of glass. When she was hungry, she pretended to slice and butter bread. Helen knew she was different from the rest of her family. She moved their lips, and when they wanted things, sometimes Helen Keller stood between two people as they talked. She held their hands up to their lips. When they tried moving her own lips, but still no one understood her. That made Helen Keller angry. Sometimes she screamed and cried and kicked for hours. She threw things and hit people, but it didn't change anything. She was still alone in silence and darkness. Helen was hard to control. Her parents didn't know how to help her. They looked her to doctors. None of the doctors could help Helen see or hear again. When Helen was 6, a doctor suggested the Kellers visit Angela Greenbell. Their bell was famous of impersonating the telephone. He also taught deaf people. Their bell told the Kellers to write to Michelle Angels and Baltimore. Angel was the head of the Penis Institution for the Blind. He believed locked Helen could learn how to let out the thoughts locked inside her. Mark Angels promised to send Helen a teacher. Helen and teacher March Helen's teacher came to live with the Kellers that spring. Her name was Annie Subin. Annie had studied at the Prince School. She was nearly blind hers. Annie needed to control Helen's right behavior so she could teach her. But Helen did not understand that Annie wanted to help her. For 2 weeks, Helen fought with Annie. She hit Annie and knocked out of one of her front teeth. She even knocked Annie in upstairs room. Mary Keller had to get a ladder and let Annie out through a window. Still, Annie did not give up. Little by little, Helen learned to trust her new teacher. Annie began to teach Helen about words. She spelled words using her fingers. Her hand formed a word using her finger. Her hands formed a different shape of each letter. She preserved each shape into Helen's hand, which she gave Helen some cake. She spelled C-A-K-E into Helen's palm. When Helen heard her doll Annie spelled D-O-L-L. For Helen imitated the shapes. She thought it was a game. She did not know that she shapes spell word. After a month, Helen could spell whatever Annie spelled, but Helen still did not know what she was naming the thing she touched. One day, Helen and Annie walked to the house. Someone was pumping water. Annie pushed Helen's hand into the rushing water. Helen felt the cool water on her hand. She felt teacher's finger spelling W-A-T-E-R into her other hand. Over and over, Annie spelled the word suddenly. Helen stood very still. All at once, thus understood the liquid flowing over her hand had a name. It was water. Everything had a name. Helen wanted to learn them all. She ran from one thing to another. Annie spelled the name of everything. Helen touched and then Helen turned and pointed to Annie. Teacher, spelled Annie. From then on, Helen's name for Annie was teacher. That summer, Helen learned a lot of new words. She stopped using her old motion. Her finger gave her all the words she needed. Annie did not teach Helen words one at a time. She take her to her in full sentence. That way, Helen learned more than just a new word. She learned new ideas. Helen and Annie took long walks through the wood and along the river. Annie gave Helen lessons on the walks. She showed Helen how seeds sprout and plants grow. She made mountains out of mud and taught Helen about volcanoes. Sometimes they climbed a tree and had a lesson there. Helen was hungry for knowledge. She wanted to learn everything Annie could teach her. Soon Annie started teaching Helen how to read. The words were printed in bright letters for a blind person. Helen spelled the words with her fingers. She liked to hunt for words she knew. When she learned to read better, she read her books over and over. Her curved fingers wrote down the raised letters. Helen also learned to write. She wrote letters to her family and Dr. Bell. She wrote many letters to Mark Angel's brother. Mark Angel was amazed by how much Helen had learned. He published some of Helen's letter reports, began to write about Helen. Soon she was famous. People all over the world wanted to know about the miracle girl, and Helen wanted to know all about the world. The end.